Assalamualaikum everyone, hope you all are doing very well. Today's video is going to be very important because in today's video I will be teaching you how to find the missing angles in parallelograms or in quadrilaterals. So let's start the video. For this video you need to know some of the properties of quadrilaterals and parallelograms so that you can come up with the values for the missing angles. So the first rule or the first property you need to keep in mind is that the sum of angles in quadrilateral is 360 degree. Even if you keep simple a square in mind, you can say that at one vertex the angle is 90 and at 4 vertices the angles will be 90 each, so 90 multiplied by 4 is 360. So like this you can remember that the sum of angles in quadrilateral is 360. By quadrilateral you mean the shapes that have 4 sides, 4 vertices and 4 angles. Now in case of parallelograms, parallelograms are the shapes that have the opposite sides parallel and equal. Like if you see in this figure, these two opposite sides are parallel as well as equal, and same is the case here. And the third property that you need to keep in mind is that adjacent angles, that is this one to this one. Adjacent angle means the angles that are sharing a common arm. For example, this and this, they are sharing this common arm. This and this are sharing this common arm. This and this are sharing this common arm. This and this are sharing this common arm. So adjacent angles are supplementary. By supplementary we mean 180 degree angles, that is the angle sum to 180 degree. Now in the first case we have to find the value of z, x, 120 degree is given, and y. Okay, so when we look at this diagram, the opposite to 120 is x. So that means you can simply say that x is equal to 120 degree. Now you can say this, but you also have to mention the reason that why is x 120 degree. Now I know that in parallelogram the opposite angles are equal. That's the reason I have said x is equal to 120 degrees. So I will write opposite angles in parallelogram are equal, right? So I will say this. Now let's look at this one. We are already done with x. Now we need to look at the missing angle, that is y. Now I can say that y is equal to 180 degree minus 120 degree, because as discussed in the third property, adjacent angles sum up to 180 degree. So simply I can subtract 120 from 180 and I will get the required answer, which is 60 degree. That means if y is 60 degree, z will also be equal to 60 degree. I can say that this is equal to z. For this I will write reason: adjacent angles are supplementary, and for this one I will write opposite angles are equal in parallelogram, right? This is how I will nicely write my solution along with the reasons. Now coming to the next shape, which is basically a rhombus. This is a rhombus because the marks on the sides are given. Now in rhombus is also a parallelogram. The opposite angles are equal. Again I can say that if this is 60, if c is 60, that means a is also 60. I can write c is equal to 60 degree is equal to a. That means I have applied the rule opposite angles in parallelogram are equal, right? So I mentioned this reason. Now for the next one, similar to the way I did in the first figure, I will say b is equal to 180 degree minus 60 degree, which is equal to 120 degree, right? 120 degree, right? So that means if b is 120 degree, this is also equal to d, which is the case that if b is equal to 120 degree, opposite to b is d, which will also be equal to 120 degree. So I have applied the opposite angles property here. Opposite angles are equal, and in this case when I subtracted from 180 degree, I basically applied adjacent angles are supplementary, right? This is how you will properly write the reasons along with the solutions you do. Now coming to part 3. Now again look at the shape. The shape is basically a square because we can notice that we have 90 degree angle or a right angle at each vertex, and there is one more way where you can say that it's a square because there are equal marks on each, plus there is a 90 degree in between because this diagonal is bisecting the angle into two congruent triangles. Now there is one easy way which I can show you to find the value for y. Now in a square, this diagonal is this line, the diagonal bisects the angle at the vertex. Now if the angle at the vertex is 90 degree, of course in case of square, that means y will be equal to 90 degree divided by 2, which is 45 degree. Simply you can say that, and then you can write the reason that n square diagonal bisects the angle at the vertex. By bisection you mean that the angle is being divided into two equal parts. Like if this is 45 degree, that means this is also 45 degree. Now if you will look at this side, you have to find x. There you can directly say this is also equal to 45, and there is one more way you can do it. Like if this is 90, this is also 90 degree. You can say that this 45 and this y and this x, they are basically alternate angles. There are two ways you can say that, because alternate angles make a z shape like this and like a z. If this and this angles are given, that means these two are equal. Or there is one more way, you can say 45 plus 90, and then you can subtract it from 180 to get this angle. And this, for this triangle will be the same, but the most easier is this one, which is easily you can say 45 divided by 2. Same goes here, 45 degree divided by 2, sorry, 90 degree divided by 2, which is 45 degrees, right? Now coming to the next one. Now again you have to identify the shape. The sides are parallel and it has a 90 degree, but this time it's not a square, this time it's a rectangle, because it's shown that the sides are parallel plus it's having a 90 degree. Now in triangle also, sorry, in rectangle also, the angle at the vertex is of 90 degree. So you can say that A is equal to 90 degree, but here you need x. So x will be 90 degree minus 65 degree, and 90 degree minus 65 degree is 25 degree. So x will be equal to 25 degree. So this is equal to 25 degree. Now here you can write the reason complementary angles, or you can say that angles at the vertex is 90 degree, or angles at the vertex of a rectangle are complementary. You can say this reason also. Now you have to find y. Again 25, if this is 25, this will also be 25. One reason is alternate angles, but another way you can remember it is, what you can do is, here you have 65, here you have 90, that you already know. These are some common concepts that you need to know. This is 65, this is 90. So what we can do is 65 degree plus 90 degree, and this is y, which you have to find, plus y degree is equal to 180 degree, because sum of angles in a triangle is 180 degree. So when you add these, you get 155 degree plus y degree is equal to 180 degree. Now y degree is equal to 180 degree minus 155 degree, and you will get 25 degree. This is how you will do it, right? And you can write the reason that sum of angles in triangle is equal to 180 degrees. Now coming to this part 5, which is a kite, and kite is also a parallelogram, we need to notice that when this line is drawn from here, it divides the kite into two isosceles triangle. This is the first one, this is the second one. Now in isosceles triangle, we have learned the property that if these two sides are equal, then the base angles will also be equal. That is, if this is x, that means this is also x, and if these two sides are equal, if this is 65, that means this is also 65 degree. Now we can easily come up with the value for x by using the sum of angles of sum of angles in a triangle is equal to 180 degree property, which is 110 degree plus x is equal to 180 degree. Now 110 degree plus x is 2x is equal to 180 degrees. Now 2x is 180 degree minus 110 degrees, and this will be 8 minus 1 is 70 degrees, and x will be equal to 70 degree divided by 2. Now x will be equal to 2, 3 is 6, 2, 5 is 10, 35 degree. That means this x is 35 and this x will also be equal to 35. You can write that sum of angles in triangle is equal to 180 degree. You used this property. Now again, similarly, you will apply the property here to find y. That is y plus 65 degree is equal to 180 degree. Now y plus 130 degree is equal to 180 degree. Now y will be equal to 180 degree minus 130 degree, which is equal to 50 degree. That means y is equal to 50 degree, and the same property you used in both of the cases. Now we are left with the last one. Now when you look at the last one, this is not basically a parallelogram because these two sides are parallel, but these two sides are not parallel. They will meet at some point. So in this case, if you identify the figure, this is basically a trapezium. In trapezium, one of the sides are parallel, not both the sides. So what you can say that in case of trapezium, the angle between the parallel lines, the angle that is these two angles, the angle between these two also, the angle between the two parallel lines are supplementary. You cannot say that y and 125 are supplementary. These two are not supplementary. These two are supplementary and these two are supplementary. So what you can say is y is equal to 180 degree minus 48 degree, and again for x is equal to 180 degree minus 125 degree. Now when you will subtract 48 from 180, what you get is 32. So you will get 32 degrees here, and in this case you will get 180, 125, 5, 7 minus 2 is 5, 55 degrees. And you will write the property that in trapezium the angles between the parallel lines are supplementary. This is how you solve for the different parallelograms by applying the properties. If you know the properties, then it will be easier for you to solve the questions. And I hope you understood the concepts. Thank you so much for watching.